Oh, let's stay on this with Peter Herbert, who's the former lead counsel at the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda and also a retired judge. He joins us live from here in London. Welcome to the programme. Your thoughts on all the
Thank you.
dramatic developments that we've seen over the weekend, the capturing of the head of a sovereign country taken to New York, appearing, as we've seen today, in a New York court. What's been going through your mind?
Well, this is a very well-planned operation that actually started probably and would have been carried out in Trump's first term, but for opposition from the American military. And if you look back, what Trump has done, he's removed any possible military opposition within the United States by getting rid of a coterie of senior African American generals and chiefs of staff who may have opposed him. And he surrounded himself with cronies who are prepared to breach international law and to support this fantasy that it's somehow a legitimate exercise of American force to go after heads of foreign states that they simply don't like. And therefore, if you look at it in international law, there is absolutely no international law which permits another sovereign state to kidnap or terrorize another sovereign state unless there's an immediate threat to life and limb in that first state. So, for instance, in the situation of Ukraine, Ukraine could have conducted a preemptive strike against Russia with the troops amassed on their border. They did not. They waited till they were invaded. There was no declaration of war. There was no sharing of information with the Gang of Eight, the leaders of Congress and the US Senate, who normally are informed in advance of such operations. And therefore, this is Trump acting with absolutely no regard whatsoever to the American Constitution or his own powers. And it is really a slap in the face to the American people and takes them as fools to suggest that this is somehow narco-terrorism. Most drugs are actually manufactured within the borders of the United States, fentanyl and others, from products available on the open market and often supplied and bought legitimately from China. Drugs are an American problem and not a South American one.
Peter, what about the UN Charter? We saw an emergency session held at the UN Security Council today. A question that Jeffrey Sachs posed. He asked, is the UN Charter a living instrument or is this dead now?
Well, it's not dead, but it clearly is the force majeure. And you've got the Monroe Doctrine, which essentially says right is might, might is right. And in that sense, the Trump administration doesn't have any regard for the United Nations. It couldn't care less, in fact. And it will veto anything the Security Council says to caution or declare what has just happened unlawful. Equally, it will pay no regard whatsoever to a motion that I understand is being pushed for by Democratic and some Republican senators, calling for their limit to be a limit of power on the exercise of what a US president can do. And this dates back to the Vietnam War, when the US found itself embroiled in Vietnam, often taking measures that amounted to war, where there was no authority of Congress to justify it. The US says, oh, this is not taking control of Venezuela. And yet there's been a direct threat to the vice president, now president of Venezuela, saying if you don't play ball, we'll effectively take you out as well. And therefore, Venezuelans are left in no doubt that Trump wants to run, in his own words, Venezuela. And that means running the oil, the gold, the iron ore and the bauxite, which are some of the major deposits in the world. And that's what this is about. It's not about narco-terrorism, as they seem to call it. Those are homegrown. And you'll recall that Trump actually pardoned the president of Honduras as one of the biggest convicted, not alleged, but convicted drug traffickers that came within the US justice system. So he's really not interested in drugs or stopping the flow of drugs or guns from Southern America. And if he was, he would spend all those resources in persuading the American people not to be addicted, which they are in huge numbers.
Peter, very briefly, if you're sitting as the leader of Greenland, of Panama, Mexico, Colombia right now, could Trump do this again?
Well, yes, militarily, he can do what he likes. He can invade Greenland, Mexico, and, as many countries as his military will get away with. What he can't do is control those people. And the exercise of what happened in Afghanistan, Iraq, and what he's currently failing to see is you cannot control a people without their cooperation. And what you'll be left with is what he faces internally with ICE, is repression on a fascist scale, which is now made synonymous with the American so-called democracy.
Peter, fantastic to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed. Peter Herbert joining us live from here in London, former lead counsel at the International Criminal Tribunal. Thank you.